Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Soul Podcasting Podcast. I have an awesome guest today. I've been following her for some time. I have Megan Dougherty. She is the author of Podcasting for Business, How to Create a Show That Makes a Bottom Line Difference for Your Company, and is a digital marketing strategist with a background in online business development. She's the co-founder of a podcast production agency that specializes in creating profitable shows for small businesses and creating podcast networks, as well as expert coaches and consultants. So in 2021, One Stone Creative developed the Business Podcast Blueprint, which we will talk about today. It's a framework for creating and optimizing podcasts for measurable business value. We're going to talk about all of this, but first off, I just want to welcome you to the show, Megan. Thank you so much for bringing your expertise and your time here on this show.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to our conversation.
I love it. I'm so excited. I want to, because I know that you're bringing so much to the podcasting game here, and you are helping so many podcasters. So we're going to start first of all by hearing your background story, because I'm always interested. Like, how did you get into this, and like what pulled you into the podcasting world, and then what pulled you into wanting to serve others through podcasting?
Well, I love it. It's kind of a funny story how I got into podcasting. I never set out to be a podcast producer. My background was in online business development, kind of digital marketing. That's where I spent the first part of my we'll call it my grown-up career. And I had left the company I'd been working at for 6 years. I was in my later 20s, and an old colleague reached out to me out of the blue. Someone I had worked at this company. She said, "Do you want to start a business together?" And I said, "With you, I'd love to. Let's do it."
Yeah.
And her background was in broadcast audio. She was a commercial DJ and audio sound engineer on the radio. And so we put our skills together. She had the audio experience and I had the digital marketing. And we started producing podcasts for business. And this was in 2017.
Wow.
And it really did start with, this is a person I want to work with more than this is a thing that I need to do. Yeah. And over the years, we started to develop more and more kind of information and strategy and methodology around podcasting. And that's how it began.
Wow. So you hadn't always dreamt of becoming a podcast host or producer. This is just something that you stepped into because the opportunity was there.
Exactly. The opportunity was there. And I think what I really I like running a small business.
Okay.
And I could probably have been equally happy doing other things, but, we really stepped into podcasting, learned a lot about it. And it's become just this endlessly fascinating industry to be a part of. So I still really enjoy it.
Yeah. What do you love the most about podcasting?
I love how flexible it is.
Yeah.
So what I think is so cool about podcasting, and the realization I had after having done it for a couple of years, I know I didn't come in with this insider or thinking about it, but a podcast, and at least in the context of a business, a podcast doesn't have any real rules.
Right.
It doesn't have any real needs. It doesn't have to look a certain way or be a certain way or do a thing. It's a tool that can be custom designed to do different things within a business.
Yeah.
And it can do different things to serve that business. And when you start looking at it that way, this is a product that I'm going to design to do something specific for a company. Well, you've got so many options. You can make it do so many things. And I find that I have not gotten bored. I don't think we've exhausted all of the possibilities or even discovered all of the things they can do yet. Right. Because there's always more experimentation.
There's so much to learn with podcasting, so much to do with it. And I love that you mentioned its flexibility. You can kind of make podcasting whatever you need it to be for your organization. I love that it's a platform to share my content, my voice, my mission. And I love that it's the vehicle through which people understand where my mind is so that I can take them through that journey. And so it's just got a lot of that flexibility that you're talking about. And you also developed a framework. So I want to jump into that because I think that's going to be helpful for the rest of what I'm going to ask you. So let's talk about your business podcast Blueprint. What is this all about, and how is this helpful for solopreneurs who are listening right now?
Definitely. So this is a methodology to kind of help guide that process of designing a podcast to do the specific things. After we'd been producing for a couple of years, and also as I think we do an annual research report into the top 100 business podcasts. So we had a lot of access and insight and information about business podcasts, and we identified 5 kind of ultimate reasons for podcasts to exist. And these are, that you'll get all sorts of benefits when you podcast. Tons of things accrue to you over time, but these are the 5 like prime directives, if I may get a little nerdy, for a podcast to exist. And they are relationship building, where the most important thing that a podcast is going to do is connect you with other people. Then there's audience engagement, where the most important thing it'll do is help nurture an audience that's already aware of you by some means. Thought leadership are shows that mainly get your ideas and your IP out into the world. Conversion podcasts change listeners from one type of relationship to another type of relationship. And then content shows are shows that exist really just to create a flywheel of content that can be used in other areas of the business. Very cool. And so these are the kind of the 5 overarching reasons to have a podcast. And if you choose one as the most important, not the only one, but the most important one, that's going to guide all of your other decision making throughout the show, because you can start it answers the questions for you. Should I have guests? Well, the most important thing I need my podcast to do is build relationships, so I better have some guests. Okay. Or should I have sponsors? Well, will sponsors help me build thought leadership? No, maybe I shouldn't invest my time in getting sponsors, because that's not getting my IP out there. And so using those as a decision filter can help you save a lot of time, and it makes the decision making process easier, because there's a lot of choices to make.
There are a lot of choices.
So many. And then if you go down another level, once you've got your most important thing, there are lots of individual things you can optimize for. You can optimize for referrals, for downloads, for sponsorship dollars, for sales cycle length, for new products that you want to create, for labor cost savings. And so you figure out what are the specific things that you want that kind of fit within your most important goal. And then you just worry about those and forget everything else. And you can podcast really efficiently.
That is going to streamline everything and just kind of take the guesswork out of what am I doing this podcast for, and why, and who's going to benefit, and what should my next steps be in creating this show. Exactly. So we don't waste time, if, like you said, like not everybody needs to have sponsors, not everybody needs to be interviewing guests. And so I love that your blueprint allows people to, as they start creating that podcast, figure out what is their goal and how to go down that right road, the road that's just right for them, so they don't end up, wiggling all the way through and trying to figure out.
Oh, exactly. Because you're a producer. I'm sure you've seen it. Somebody starts podcasting and it's really exciting, and they invest all of this time and energy and often a lot of money into it, and they're having a good time, and maybe they're getting good feedback, but the business needle is not moving.
Exactly.
And so, like, at a certain point, you have to end that kind of project, because you can't just keep investing in it forever if it's not delivering an outcome.
And I would think this is great for like on the front end, instead of like waiting for an audit, like doing this up front, having this resource.
If at all possible.
Yeah.
The best time is before you start, but the second best time is now.
Exactly.
It's never too late to refine, but.
Yes. I love that. So there are listeners who also were there. They're trying to figure out, okay, well, what about guests? I do want to have guests, but how do they know when to bring them in? How often to bring in these individuals that's going to make that strong interview for them? How would you help them decide whether or not they need guests at all?
Yeah. Well, I think that, it really comes down to the type of business that somebody's in and what the goals are for that business. Like, let's say, so if I were thinking about starting a new show for my business, what I really need is I need more clients. I need a lot more clients. Well, there's a couple of ways a podcast can help do that. You could, on the one hand, interview people who might potentially be clients, and that's advanced podcasting. You got to make sure not to feel bait and switchy or like it's a sales funnel that someone's been dumped into, but it can be done. You can also have a podcast where you're talking to complementary business owners to build referral relationships. So that might be if you talk to people who say we're podcast producers, we might talk to graphic designers and website builders and maybe bookkeepers and other people that small business owners are going to be working with. And we create something that's going to be valuable for anyone to listen to. Yes. But what's really important is that relationship we're making with other professionals. Because after that show where you've given them a chance to shine and share their expertise, and you've shared your own expertise, say, hey, you know what? Can you send me your customer avatar and your price sheet so that I know who to refer to you, and here's mine. Yeah. And then you follow up, and then you keep building that relationship over time. Yeah. And that's one of, I think, the strongest strategies, especially for a new a newer podcaster,
Right.
Or a newer business owner who is starting to build their professional network, it's an amazing engine for networking. Because most people, when you invite them on the podcast, they say, absolutely, where's your calendar? Rather than, can we have a networking, or can I pick your brain, or can we do like a meet and greet? People are more hesitant to do that. No one's hesitant to get on a podcast.
Exactly. I love that idea. And I think a lot of podcasters don't quite think about that aspect of interviews, that there is a business part of this where networking can be a crucial part of how we engage with those we interview. But I think this is awesome. Thank you for bringing that up. I think a lot of us don't even think about that. We just, who's the next person, right?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking of it in terms of how can I help this? How can this help me to grow? How can it help my guests to grow? And how can we network and be supportive of each other in this endeavor? So that's
I think what happens a lot is in podcasting, in the podcasting industry as a whole, the audience is always the main focus.
Yeah.
Right? It's the big amorphous audience of people out there who might hear your message and be impacted. And they're great. I love audience. Don't get me wrong. But for a lot of smaller businesses, the guest is the real audience of the podcast. And they're the most, from a business strategic perspective, they're going to be more impactful than a bunch of strangers who it is important to serve well and to make great stuff for, but that's not going to have a direct path to income in the same way that nurturing relationships with your guests will.
Exactly. I love that. Okay, so this is all food for thought. We are going to be meditating on this and thinking, how can I recreate how I'm doing my processes right now so that I'm looking at this more strategically. So I think that is the key word for this episode is strategy. And I love that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that, as a podcast consultant and coach, that you've seen plenty of shows that have begun. They've started out pretty strong, but then they stalled out. So for an entrepreneur who's kind of on the edge of either launching a show or quitting a show, what are some let's talk about mindset. What are some metrics that person might want to look at to judge the true health of their show before they either before they quit or even before they begin? How can they start to think along those terms of metrics that they need to be looking at?
So that's a great question and so important for people to be thinking about. And for a brand new podcaster, someone who's never done it before, the first thing they should do is be a guest on other people's shows and see, do you like this at all? What is it like when other people do it?
Yeah.
Do you do the main part of the work, right? And if that is, okay, this was kind of cool, I kind of like it. The next thing I'd say is, before committing to a forever show, like an ongoing podcast releases every Tuesday until the end of time, commit to a season and do a limited release podcast of only like 8, 10, 12 episodes.
Very cool.
And that gives you a chance to try it out. You can thoroughly explore content. It can be with guests. It can be solo. It can be a really evergreen resource in your business. And at the end of it, you can, did you like it? Because you might not. You might hate it.
You might not.
And that's good to know.
Yeah.
And you can put up with anything for 3 months. Right? Doing something for 3 months, you can put up with it even if you don't like it. But then at the end of that, the energy is very different because you didn't fade, you didn't fail, you didn't quit. You finished a season that is a complete body of work. And now you're moving on to other things.
Yeah.
So I think that's one really good thing to do at the beginning. And if you've already got a show and you're just like, this isn't working, what I want you to do as someone who might be in that situation is go back and think, what does working mean? What does it mean for a podcast to be successful for you?
Right.
Because a lot of people get started and they don't actually identify that.
Yeah.
Like there's not you, and you should be really, really clear. Like a successful podcast for me means 2 new referral partners a month who are actually willing to send me business. And you say, I'm going to give myself 8 months to get to that point. And see how it's going. And so set a clear, measurable goal and a timeline to meet that goal. And at the end of that timeline, if you're meeting it, amazing, you're winning at podcasting.
Yeah.
And if not, then you can either change your processes or, like, we're business owners. If it's not working, end it.
Exactly. And I love that you talked about giving yourself a reasonable amount of time as well. Like not just shooting for the stars and hoping and wishing that you'll get 20 million downloads and, something so unrealistic, but we want to be the next, big podcaster, but we have to be realistic. And I love that you're really helping us to see, okay, how can we make these metrics something that match our lifestyle and something that we actually can work with and give ourselves a reasonable amount of time, 3 months or however amount of time that is, 1 season, see how it goes. If it doesn't work, it's okay. We finished our season and we did it. And so, and we didn't give up. And so I love that. I love that. It gives us that freedom to explore a little bit, but not have to be locked down forever.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to have clarity. You want to know what success means, and you want to know under a reasonable time frame to achieve it. Because, like, you could probably become a top 100 podcaster. It's going to take every waking minute for the next 3 years.
Right.
I don't know if you have a business to run. I don't know if you want to devote that kind of time to it.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, speaking on that, what would you say are maybe one or two, however many you can think of, misconceptions that new podcast hosts might have when it comes to measuring their success?
Biggest one is probably that downloads are the most important thing to be paying attention to. Downloads can be useful. You want to keep an eye on them. Like, you want to know if they're going up or down, and if how the rate of change over time. That's all very useful. But for most business owners, there's not a direct line between downloads and business. Yeah. And I think the other big misconception, and this is the one, this drives me batty, I cannot stand this, is how am I going to monetize my podcast? Or is my podcast going to be monetized? How do I get sponsors? You run a business. You sell things. That is the monetization.
That's the monetization.
Your podcast helps you do it, not the other way around.
Right.
Unless you want to start a whole new business that is your podcast, which you can do if you want to. But I think that's a really big one. I feel like it's a lot of the advice built around that is really backwards for business owners, because you've already got a functioning business and products and services that you sell and offers that you make. Your podcast is only valuable if it helps you do that better. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying the order in which we're to see things as entrepreneurs. Like, that is the order. You have the business. The podcast supports that business. And so if we see it that way and not wait on, waiting on the sponsors, waiting on that big, thing that's supposed to come down the pipeline, I think it's helpful for us to understand the order that our podcast is within our business ecosystem. So that's so super important. Well, do you have there's a lot of listeners here that are either new at podcasting, starting to launch, thinking about it, just kind of going over in their heads, like, should I do this? And can I do this? And I think already what you've shared so far has just been really encouraging to say, okay, yes, you can do this, but make sure you have strategy. Make sure that you know why and how to put these in place in the proper perspective. Are there any other words of encouragement or supports that you would love to offer on this show?
Let's see. I think something else, especially if you're in the should I or shouldn't I category, something that can be a really valuable use of, say, an afternoon or a couple of days, is check out what your colleagues and your peers are doing with podcasting, because that's going to tell you a couple of things. One is, what does a normal or successful or interesting podcast in your space look like? That varies from industry to industry a lot. Speakers' podcasts are very different from bookkeepers' podcasts, and so getting a sense of what are the norms in my podcasting, because yes, you can break rules, you can do things differently, but a lot of these things are happening for a reason. So getting a sense of, what are the production values? What are the length? Are they guests? Are they solos? Having an understanding of the landscape that you want to enter into is going to let you make decisions about, following or being different a lot easier. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, just give it a go. Once you start up, if you kind of create your art and record a couple episodes and listen to them, there's no law that says you have to release them if you don't like them.
That's true.
You can try it and then say, this wasn't for me. I did it myself a couple weeks ago. I was like, I should really do a short form video show. I don't know what I was thinking. I hate video shows with myself. Like, I can't do that every week. But I tested. Those recordings will never see the light of day, but I have a lot more information now than I did when I began.
Because of testing and because you allowed yourself the permission to do the work. You said, okay, I'm going to try it, see how I like it. I don't have to release it, but at least I tried. Yeah. That's so cool. Okay. So I love that you're a go-getter and you try different things, see how it works. And that's really the epitome of being an entrepreneur, is we are trying things and just discovering what works for us and what doesn't. And I think there's really no shame. There's absolutely no shame in figuring this out along the way and helping others along the way as well. And I love that that's what you do, that you are figuring it out and helping others along the way. I'd love to know, just for fun, like, what do you do outside of your podcasting agency? What are you doing for fun these days?
Ooh, let's see. Well, I have chickens, so I'm spending a lot of
Ooh.
time on chicken husbandry.
Oh, wow. Now that's fun.
Yeah, I live in a
Sounds like
place
a lot
that
of
allows
work,
you to
though.
have backyard chickens. Less than you'd expect after the initial setup, but so I take care of my birds, and I love fiber crafts, so I'm doing a lot of crochet right now,
Oh,
trying
fun.
to learn how to do that.
Okay. Have you made anything specific when you crochet?
I made a blanket. I don't know
Wow.
if you crochet, you can make a granny square. It's a little thing about yay
Yep.
big, and then you make
Yep.
like 30 of them, and you stitch them
Yeah.
together, and you have got a blanket.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
I used to. I haven't done it in a while, but blankets take forever for me. So
it does, but that's why I like the granny square one because it's like, oh, you get that little like ping of dopamine every time you finish one, and it's
yes,
you
yes,
can
yes.
do one in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're really creative and artsy.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
I try.
Yeah. That's so cool. Okay. Well, then I want to know, so if those who are interested in learning to podcast or starting podcasting or just want some framework or some solution, how can they reach you? What do you offer our listeners and how can they reach you?
Well, I'm going to do a shameless plug
Yeah.
for Podcasting for Business, which I've got right here. You can get a digital copy for
Whoa.
free at podcastingforbusiness.com. So you can download it,
Wow.
you'll get the PDF right away, and that kind of goes through the entire methodology, and it's got fairly excruciating detail about how to optimize shows for different things. So if you're thinking
That's
about
so
it, it's
cool.
a good start.
Okay.
And there's a not zero chance it'll horrify you out of starting a podcast entirely with the amount of work that is involved, but that's when you go hire someone like Demetria to help you through the process. And also on that page, you'll find out you can email, book a call, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat podcasting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We will definitely get the links to the book and how to reach your agency, how to reach everything that you're doing. And you did have a framework. So is that in the book as well as that is separate?
That's the book itself.
That is the book.
It's the whole
Okay.
whole
Okay.
process.
All right, we'll get links to everything. Megan, this has been awesome. You've been very supportive and helpful for us. So can't wait to hear more from you in the future. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.